Let go of that fellow.
Alright, pop quiz, hotshot. What happens when you take a police drama, toss in slapstick chaos, rapid-fire puns, banana peels, and a deadpan guy who's always saying the wrong thing at the wrong time? That's right, we're talking about The Naked Gun, the gloriously goofy franchise that gave us Detective Frank Drebin, arguably the most accident-prone hero in comedy. Before jumping into the upcoming reboot with Liam Neeson stepping into the hilariously oversized shoes, let's go back just a bit. The Naked Gun movies weren't just some of the funniest films, they redefined spoof comedy for a generation. Based on the short-lived but highly acclaimed TV series Police Squad, the trilogy was released in theaters from 1988 to 1994. It was sheer pandemonium at its best. Now, it's time for a reboot of the franchise after 30 years, but before marching blindly into this new event, just like Frank Drebin into a fireworks factory, let's get you up to speed. This is the only recap you need before the Naked Gun reboot. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. A glorious recap of the original trilogy. So let's kick things off with the very first of these films which started it all. That is to say, The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad, which came out in 1988. With some of the greatest absurdism ever put to film, this was certainly no buddy cop movie. Just to give you an idea of what you're in for, the opening scene involves Drebin, the one and only Leslie Nielsen, bursting in on a secret meeting involving the world's most infamous dictators. He literally fights off Idi Amin, Castro, Gaddafi, and more in a wild, over-the-top takedown that's all played completely straight. It's like the Cold War, a slapstick cartoon, and a Three Stooges bit all rolled into 5 minutes of screen time. Let's talk about the film's plot. Officer Nordberg is nearly offed while investigating a heroin smuggling operation aboard one of the crookedest ships upon which Drebin rides to clear his pal's name. Nordberg, played by O.J. Simpson, gets found, shot, and beaten, and is as comically injured as possible, all in the course of being shot in the arm, back, and leg, and even flung off a boat. Don't get me wrong, it's tragic as hell, but in a laugh until you choke kind of way. Meanwhile, Queen Elizabeth II is visiting Los Angeles, and somehow, in his infinitely wise nature, Drebin finds himself assigned as her bodyguard. So he greets her by driving through her dinner table and scattering food everywhere. From there, everything gets quite mad, including a sinister villain named Vincent Ludwig, played with a kind of elegant menace by Ricardo Montalban, who wants to kill the Queen with an assassin he has mind-controlled. Well, the mind-controlled assassin turns out to be poor Nordberg himself, hypnotized without realizing it. As for the climax, it's pure Naked Gun gold. It all goes down at a baseball game in Anaheim Stadium to the tune of the national anthem sung by Enrico Palazzo, which is Drebin in disguise, while players are tackled mid-play and the Queen is almost taken out by a baseball bat. And yes, Drebin also manages to somehow throw a villain in a wheelchair off the upper deck of the stadium. Accidental heroism at its best. Everything just makes sense. Everything's absurd, everything's brilliant, and it works because Leslie Nielsen plays it all with the sincerity of Shakespeare, even while falling face first into a tuba or accidentally groping statues in the police station. His delivery is so deadpan, it's practically a superpower. Every misstep is delivered with the conviction of a dramatic monologue, which only makes the nonsense even funnier. Fast forward 3 years to 1991, and we get The Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear, with an uneasy title to swallow and no meaning whatsoever. The title is almost a joke in itself. This time around, Drebin is working on a case that's surprisingly timely for a spoof, renewable energy. Somebody wants the kooky Dr. Meinheimer, a scientist and pro-clean energy advocate, out of the picture before he can unveil a national program aimed at decreasing America's dependence on fossil fuels. Enter the energy lobby, cartoonishly evil fat cats who replace Meinheimer with the look-alike Earl Hacker and plan to sabotage the clean energy movement altogether. It would almost seem plausible as a political thriller were it not for the fact that Drebin takes out a terrorist with a blown-up sex doll and then glides down a corridor with the elegance of a banana peel. In between all this business of unraveling conspiracies and tripping over his own badge, Drebin tries to win back his ex-girlfriend, Jane Spencer, once again portrayed by Priscilla Presley, who delivers line after line with the calm chaos of a seasoned straight woman. Their relationship has an oddly sincere aspect which just manages to ground the chaos. She wants a serious man. Drebin, well, once, to pacify her, said, "You're the only woman I've ever loved." except for maybe you. Romance. The second movie amps up everything. Bigger action, quicker gags, crazier set pieces. Think of the wedding cake room Drebin and Jane almost blow up as an entrance to death. Think of a nightclub number with a hysterically overwrought lounge singer, a dinner scene where Drebin ignites a lobster before igniting the place, and a slow-motion avalanche of a building crumbling like a Jenga tower. How any of the sets survived is honestly a miracle. When there are cameos, they really deliver. Zsa Gabor getting arrested for slapping a cop, meta much? Mel Torme moonlighting at a gala, and the entire Chicago Bears making a blink and you'll miss it special guest appearance. The Zucker/Abrahams team really knew their audience and weren't afraid to sprinkle in sufficient pop culture absurdism for some belly laughs from the fans. And then came Naked Gun 33 1/3, The Final Insult, in 1994, a title that is at once completely apt and utterly pointless. By this point, the franchise had trekked deep into self-parody territory, and they were having fun with the joke. Frank Drebin is officially retired and unsuccessfully attempting to enjoy suburban life, but retirement doesn't stick. He's sucked back into the action after a prison break and a plot to bomb the Academy Awards. Yes, those Academy Awards. This film takes a shot at Hollywood, and the climax goes full-on spoof mode at the Oscars, with red carpet chaos, disaster teleprompters, and the shockingly funny High Hopes. The satire gets meta, with fake celebrities, fake acceptance speeches, and some actual confusion as Drebin tries to stop the bomb during the ceremony, while of course disguised as Phil Donahue. In the meantime, there's an undercover prison plot where Drebin goes full Shawshank, attempting to infiltrate the criminal underworld at a maximum security facility. Along the way, he fakes a violent crime to get locked up, eats the cafeteria mystery meat, and tries to blend in with the inmates. Spoiler, that doesn't go so well. Some critics say this one lacks polish compared to the earlier movies, but that hardly deterred fans. It delivered exactly what The Naked Gun was about: plain, simple, physical imbecility and cornball wordplay so retro it circles back to genius. Leslie Nielsen was still going full throttle, and even if the jokes occasionally missed, they never stopped coming. Across all three films, the real magic lies in how the humor is delivered. The comedy isn't just in what happens, it's in how it happens. Visual gags, double entendres, whole scenes collapsing into absurdity. These films might as well be live-action cartoons. However, don't get it twisted, that's not an easy thing to pull off. You need a cast absolutely committed to the bit, and Leslie Nielsen was born to play Frank Drebin. He wasn't trying to be funny, he was funny because he was always serious, and in a world that only got more ridiculous with each installment, that was the glue that held it all together. The original Naked Gun trilogy may be decades old now, but its influence is still everywhere. From the DNA of modern spoof comedies to TikToks that basically feel like low-budget Police Squad sketches, and with a new reboot in the works, it now feels like the perfect time to revive the glorious and hectic legacy of Frank Drebin, the man, the myth, the master of walking into the wrong room and taking credit anyways. Everything we know about the reboot. Okay, now let's talk about why we're really here. The Naked Gun reboot. Yes, it's actually happening. Not a parody of a parody, not an SNL sketch of a reboot, just a calm and quiet, full-fledged cinematic reboot of one of the most iconic spoof franchises in Hollywood history. And this time, it's handed to none other than Liam Neeson. Wait, Liam Neeson? The guy from Taken? The guy who made threatening someone on a cell phone an art form? You're not alone if these thoughts ran through your mind. It sounds like the beginning of a joke, yet the kicker? It truly works. Neeson plays Lieutenant Frank Drebin Jr., the son of the original clumsy detective made famous by Leslie Nielsen. And from the initial reactions to the trailer, the guy is already making headlines for leaning into the madness. For an actor best known for his grizzled roles in dark action flicks like The Grey and the Taken trilogy, seeing Neeson prancing in puns, pratfalls, and toilet humor feels like watching someone's dad get dragged into a TikTok trend and nail it. One line from the teaser went straight to viral mode. Drebin Jr., while reading out the crime scene file with an overly dramatic flair, suddenly blurted out manslaughter, mispronouncing it as man's laughter. The trailer makes the most of every awkward pause from that moment, and boy did the fans eat it up. The release is officially set for August 1st, 2025, a slight shift from the earlier projection of July, with Akiva Schaffer, one-third of the Lonely Island trio, directing. If that name rings a bell, it's probably because of his cult hits like Popstar, Never Stop Never Stopping, Hot Rod, and the Emmy Award-winning Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers reboot. Basically, this guy knows how to spoof pop culture while keeping it fresh and weirdly heartfelt. And if any franchise on this planet deserves that equilibrium of stupidity and style, it is The Naked Gun. Let's talk about the cast for a second, because this lineup is wild in the best way possible. Pamela Anderson, in her big screen comedy return, plays Beth, a sultry nightclub singer who drags Drebin Jr. into a swirling murder mystery. It's given vintage noir energy meets clueless punchlines. Anderson allegedly lends an altogether different comedic charm to the role, described by Entertainment Weekly as funny and easygoing, a far cry from those slow-mo Baywatch days. Then comes Paul Walter Hauser as Captain Ed Hawken Jr., son to George Kennedy's original Ed Hawken. That's 2 legacy sequel movies already in the mix, and judging by the trailer, Hauser is playing it with equal parts deadpan authority and full-body confusion. Also included on the cast list are Kevin Durand, Danny Houston, Liza Koshy, WWE superstar Cody Rhodes, CCH Pounder, Michael Bisping, Eddie Yu, and yes, Busta Rhymes. It really feels like someone assorted a Comic-Con guest list with a UFC card and said, now you're all cops. But here's where it gets the most interesting: the throwbacks. The original trilogy gets some neat acknowledgement, just slyly avoiding stepping too deep into nostalgia. There's a Nordberg Jr. character, probably having some fun with the character forever linked with O.J. Simpson, but fret not, the reboot has no intention of pretending the presence of Simpson's controversy never occurred. In fact, the trailer embraces a moment where Drebin Jr. gives a subtly awkward shake of the head towards a framed picture of the original Nordberg, an exquisite visual gag that graciously acknowledges yet gently keeps distance. So who else is on the original team? David Zucker, co-creator of Police Squad and director of the original Naked Gun films, has not been consulted in this reboot. In fact, he's made it clear that he wouldn't even consider watching it. "I just don't want to see it," he said during an interview. Harsh? Yes. Should they care? We don't think so. Schaefer and the team seem to be doing just fine without looking back. As for descriptions from the footage shown, it appears to have been executed fresh. So what do we actually know plot-wise? From trailer glimpses and set reports, it's known that Drebin Jr. is trying to untangle a headline conspiracy with a series of seemingly unrelated crimes and a murder plot that somehow leads him smack into the heart of his own precinct, which incidentally is in danger of being turned into a spirit Halloween, and yeah, you heard that right. It looks like Drebin's biggest troubles will be his well-meaning incompetence rather than the actual case in classic Naked Gun style. There are snippets of him fiddling with a door that's already wide open, running after suspects while slithering on oil slicks, and firing off a taser that bounces off the wall and hits himself in the butt. The reboot looks crisp and cinematic in terms of vision. It is, however, not styled to make the comedy cool. Rather, it's leaning heavily into the old-school physicality that made the originals so well-loved. Behind the scenes, we've got Dan Gregor and Doug Mand, co-writers on Chip and Dale, teaming up with Schaefer on the script. The style is sharp, referential, and knows just when to tug a gag out one beat too far. And with the bad boy of comedy, Seth MacFarlane, producing this under his Fuzzy Door banner, expect a tinge of edge and some wickedly irreverent side jokes peppered in. The big question on Reddit and film Twitter is, will this new Naked Gun be a beat-for-beat imitation of the original, or will it be an entirely new take? Early reactions indicate that the film may be traversing a thin line between homage and innovation. The spoof format of old is underlined but brings the humor up just enough to steamroll into new audiences without seriously leaving out the OG ones that grew up on that trilogy. Speaking of reactions, when the trailer dropped, it didn't take long before TikTok and Twitter lit up. The man's laughter bit, instant virality. Fans are calling it the funniest trailer since Anchorman, and there's quite a buzz over seeing Neeson break character in such a ridiculous setting. Almost like watching your dad accidentally embarrass himself at karaoke. There are still a few holdout skeptics though. The nagging fears inherent in rebooting a comedy this iconic are that it'll get bogged down in nostalgia or try too hard to be relevant. Still, if Schaefer and company keep trusting in the formula, absurd setups, deadpan delivery, and no shame, they might just pull it off. Bottom line, a seasoned action star doing slapstick, a director who gets the irony and the chaos of pop culture, a cast comprised of mostly wild cards, a franchise that knows exactly what made it tick in the first place. Well, if this shtick ends up landing, it may not only revive the Naked Gun, but jumpstart a whole new era of spoof comedy. August 1st, 2025. Mark it down. Whether it's man's laughter or manslaughter, we'll be there. Marvelous verdict! So here we are. 3 iconic films later, and we're finally getting the reboot nobody knew they needed, but we're so glad it's happening. Will the new Naked Gun hit all the comedic points of the originals? That one's too hard to call. But with Liam Neeson going for the slapstick home run, a wildly chaotic supporting cast, and a creative team that understands the assignment, things are looking hopeful. The reboot isn't trying to reinvent the wheel, it's just trying to trip over it in the most ridiculous way possible. Honestly, that's exactly the energy we need right now. So yeah, August 1st, 2025. Get your popcorn ready, grab a poncho because who knows what kind of physical comedy will be flying off the screen, and get ready to meet the next generation of Drebin, because justice doesn't take a day off, and neither does slapstick. That's all we got for you this time, but if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.